Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Angela. And this has been weighing on my mind, so I thought I would share this with you guys. Um so when I started my um spiritual journey, I had a lot of clairvoyant moments, a lot of claircognizant moments. Um and I've said recently in one of my videos, I can't remember which one, but I always feel like I'm doing this whole year. I've felt like I've been going excuse me, 2 steps forward and 3 steps back when I'm in this journey. And I want to tell you guys a story. I found it interesting. So when I first started learning tarot, literally was like maybe a couple weeks into trying to learn tarot. And if you hear the dog barking, that's my dog in the other room barking. My husband's watching a football game, getting ready to watch a football game, so it might get loud in the other room here. But let me adjust. So, I started my spiritual journey in June of 2018. I literally woke up one morning with the overwhelming need to buy or to know everything there was paranormal, about mediumship, everything. And I dove deep. I'm a Virgo, so I do love to study and all that stuff. So I kind of dove off the deep end, as people would say, and watched a bunch of videos and all this stuff. And then in April of last year, again, woke up one morning with the overwhelming need to buy a tarot deck. Sorry, I got a little sinus drainage going on. And I couldn't figure out why, didn't understand it. Meanwhile, I was having all these claircognizant and clairvoyant moments, like bursts of moments that I couldn't control. So last April, there was a construction crew that came in and redid our building. There used to be a shipping department there, and now and they are gone. So it was like the lab was moved around. I make hard contacts and ship them. And so the only thing that was left was the lab. So they expanded the lab out to these other areas of the building and redid the whole thing. And one day I came into work, probably within 2 days of them starting to do reconstruction. I would see smoke every day in one of the main rooms they were doing the construction in that used to be the shipping department. And I would literally see it hazing around, like hanging in clouds around the room. And I'm like, does nobody see this but me? And of course, nobody was seeing it but me. I was seeing it so much every day that I got panic attack, like almost having panic attacks. I almost called in a couple times because I'm like, there's going to be a fire. There is a fire. There was a fire. Something about fire. Couldn't quite figure it out. So probably 4 weeks into the construction, I was like every day looking around for like any moment for a spontaneous fire to spontaneously combust. Couldn't figure it out, and I was like freaking out every day. I was paranoid all day, every day while I was at work. And then something told me to talk to one of the customer service ladies in the front. So before that, I went to lunch, and I actually was sitting in my car at work on my lunch break, and I did like a little mini meditation, like a 2-minute thing in my car before I was going in, and all of a sudden I felt there was a presence in front of me, in front of my car. And I look up, and there's this little old lady. It was almost like it was a, what do you call it? Like almost like a hologram. Like she was kind of hazy and kind of blinking in and out. And it made me realize, because I had actually seen a spirit with the only female construction worker that was there with the crew to do the remodel. I'd actually seen him with her, like like I didn't physically see him. I saw him in my third eye, in my intuition eye, and I knew he was there. His spirit was there. This was, however, more of a like an after effect. Like her spirit's gone, gone on, moved on to the other realm, to the other plane, to heaven, whatever you want to call it. And it was like a flashback of her presence there. And I'm like, well, who does she belong to? So that kind of actually seeing her made me realize the difference between a physical spirit that's there with someone and like a past remembrance. The spirit's moved on, but there's like a trail of energy left over. It's called something. It's slipping my mind right now. I'm sorry, but um, she was dressed in this like fall colored like 70s dress. She's really short. She had her hair up in a bun, gray hair, of course, because she was older. She was showing to me herself to me as when she passed, and where I was seeing her like the end of what she was there as she passed. And I was like, what does this tie into fire at all? Like, I was freaking out, still freaking out constantly about this fire thing. So I go in and I'm working, and then something tells me to go talk to the customer service lady up front. And I went up front, and I'm like, hey, this may sound strange, but I keep seeing, and she knew about me trying to open my abilities, discover my abilities, starting to learn tarot, all of that. She knew about it, and she was open to it. And I was like, I just needed somebody to talk to, like talk through this whole fire thing with, because I was panic stricken every single day I went to work. And she said, well, I've been here forever. There's never been a fire here. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, however, you may be picking up my anxiety because last week my aunt and uncle's house burnt to the ground. And I'm like, what? And it had been an electrical fire. They had like too many outlets plugged into one area, and it caught fire and burnt their house down. And she said, I've been having such anxiety about it that I actually had to go to the doctor and get on medication to keep my anxiety down, because I plugged my phone in and everything like they did, and that's how it started. She goes, so I'm afraid I'm going to go home and my house is going to be burnt down every day. And I'm like, wow, I feel like maybe that's what was happening, is I was picking up her anxiety. And as soon as we talked it out, it was like I could breathe again, and the air left the room, or the air was back in the room, and I could breathe. And then I told her, and I was smelling like lilacs when I came back from lunch after I'd seen the lady. And I was like, yeah, I saw some other lady too, outside. And I start describing her, and she's like, oh, that's my grandmother. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. And she's like, she has this one dress that was like her favorite. And I think she said that's what they buried her in, was that dress I had seen her in. And I said, well, what was her favorite flower? She said lilacs. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Because I was smelling lilacs the whole time I came back. And it's weird because when I came back into the building, I wasn't going to tell anybody what I saw or heard or smelled. And it was one of the first times I actually had clairgustance, where you smell, I don't remember, because it happens so rarely to me. But it was the very first time I had that experience where I was smelling her favorite flowers or perfume that was something of this woman's. And I was like, okay. And when I came back in, I wasn't going to tell anybody. And as soon as she realized I wasn't going to tell anybody, my ear started burning, to the point where it had turned red. Just this ear had turned bright red. And it was almost like I had a fever just in this ear. And it was this constant ringing, like she was screaming in my ear, tell someone, talk to someone. And then that's when I had this overwhelming need to go talk to this specific person. And then all that happened. And I'm like, okay, so maybe this is where I'm seeing this fire thing from, because I was feeling so panic stricken. And I do feel like I was feeling some of her anxiety, because the second we talked about it, her anxiety went down, my anxiety went down. I haven't had any anxious moments since then. However, the fire is not done with me. So last week at work, the last couple months, I've been feeling again like somebody's trying to tell me, hey, there was a fire here. There was a fire here. There was a fire here. Um, and I'm just not getting it. I'm like, what is happening? That I keep feeling like there's this fire at my place of work. And I'd already talked to her, and she's like, I've been here forever. There's never been a fire in this building. Well, last week, the week before, I actually did a oracle spread on the building. I asked, because I know there's a couple different energies there that are not nice in the back. And I asked them, I'm like, if you know anything about this fire, speak to me through the cards. And I pulled some cards that were quite disturbing. I got a lot of feeling like there was obvious fire. But there was obvious, like there had been a factory there at one point or nearby that had burnt or caught fire or exploded. And I felt that somebody had gotten their hand chopped off. Somebody was also strung from a tree. Like there was this whole ordeal where I'm like, okay, I've moved past my fear of these things, but now it just leads to more questions, because that's all I was getting. Because again, it's still like a hit or miss with me with the clairvoyance and the claircognizance. And I'm like, so that I know nothing about. However, the fire was confirmed for me last week. Cut to last week. It was Tuesday or Wednesday. And I was actually talking to one of the older employees. She's been there with this company 40 years. This company was not always where it's at now. They've only been there probably 20 something years, a little bit over 20 years. But I was sitting here retelling her about when I first started feeling the anxiety about the fire, the smoke in the room. I kept telling people that I would feel fire like it was in the other office across from us, because we're this little end of the building, and then there's another business, and then that business has expanded to the other end of the building. So they're like two offices, and one is their office now. And I kept feeling like the fire was always coming from that direction toward, like there was smoke and stuff inside our building, but it never, our office, but it never actually had any fire in our building or in our office. So I'm sitting there talking to her, relaying her this information. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. And she was cleaning a lens and literally stopped what she was doing. And I'm like, as soon as I said, well, I talked to this person, and she's like, she's been here forever, and there was never a fire here. She literally stopped what she was doing, put everything down, and then just kind of weirdly looked at me and was like, but there was a fire here. And I'm like, what? And so she relays the story to me. The person that had told me there had never been a fire there has only been there like 8 or 9 years. I did not know that. She acts like she's been there 20 years, but she's not. It's been like 9 years. But this person has been with the company 40 years, so she knows all about everything, especially this building, because she's been in this building since it was built. She said is about from anywhere from 12 to 15 years ago, she was leaving work, and there was a furniture store on the other end where the business in between us now is expanded on that end as well, but it used to be another business on the end of that. It was a furniture store. They made chairs, wooden chairs and stuff. And she said, I was leaving work. Everybody else was gone except the owner. And she said, I went outside before I tell you that. So this is the day I was like, I woke up, but okay, this is the day I'm going to find out about this fire. So I get to work, and I actually just because we were bored, I did a quick little meditation, and I'm like, if anybody could tell me anything about why I'm continuously feeling fire, let me know. And all of a sudden, I heard in my intuitive ear, running footsteps, like super fast running through the halls of the back hall. And I'm like, that's crazy. And I, again, got this overwhelming sense of fire. Like somebody's running out of the building because it was on fire. And so back to her conversation, she's like, yeah, there was a fire here. She goes, at one time, 12 to 15 years ago, she's like, I can't remember, it's been a while. She goes, at the very end, it made furniture. And she said, when everybody else is gone except the owner, I was leaving out the back. And I got outside and I felt this like wave of heat. And I look over, and the back dock on that end was engulfed in flames. And smoke was billowing out. And I was like, holy cow. She's like, so I came in and told the boss, and then I went home. He's like, yeah, going home. We're going to call 911, whatever. So she said the next day they shut down the building because there was so much smoke in their end, they couldn't work. And I'm like, really? Is this why I'm seeing smoke all the time in this building? Like every time I turn around, there's smoke. I'm seeing smoke. And I've even asked a couple people, especially when they were doing the construction, did you not see the smoke lingering in the air? And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, this is crazy. So a few weeks after I actually stopped smelling the smoke, I was doing my job one day. I was shipping. I had a little gun. I scan a label, and it ships the label that you ship the package out the door in. And I was doing that, and my boss walked by me. He was putting something away, and all of a sudden I smelled this overwhelming, horribly musty, moldy, wet carpet smell. And I'm like, I was gagging. It was that bad. And I asked my boss, I'm like, what is that? Do you smell that? And he's like, I don't know what you're smelling. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And then it was gone. 2 seconds later, it was just gone. And I'm like, okay. Never realizing that may have had something to do with the fire. But as she's telling me the story about how the smoke was coming into the main areas I was seeing smoke in is where there was most of the smoke in our end of the building. And I'm like, that makes sense. And it was coming from that direction, which is what I had said, that I always felt like it was coming from the other end of the building. And so I asked her, I'm like, did the sprinklers go off at any point? And she's like, yeah. She goes, well, before the remodel, the whole upstairs was carpet. And the sprinklers had gone off upstairs. They had to rip out the carpet and redo it and everything. And I'm like, what? It's like, this is crazy. So something I've been stressing over for a year and a half now, I got confirmed the other day. And I think it's funny how spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, works in mysterious ways. Because I was all of a sudden again, because it was put out of my mind for a long time. Like after I had this conversation with the other girl about her anxiety about fire and stuff, it was put out of my mind for a long time. And then the last couple months, it's like done a resurgence of itself. Like, you need to know. It was like someone was telling me, you need to know that you're right, that there was a fire here. And so I just thought that was cool that she wound up confirming that. And she's like, if you need to know any history, don't ask somebody that's only been here 9 years. Ask me, I know it all. I'm like, yeah, that's my lesson learned. So I just thought that was interesting. And I thought I would share that with you guys. If you feel like you're doubting your abilities, stop doubting it, because at some point it's going to be revealed to you that you were right. And it made me feel good to know that I wasn't going crazy, that I haven't spent the last year and a half freaking out over nothing. And that there was in fact a fire there in the past. So yeah, just wanted to share that with you guys. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification button so you're not missing out on any more of my videos. Thanks and have a good night.